Hello, everybody. Are you recording your audio?
Yes, I'm recording my audio. We're good.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
This is the third episode of And That's What You Missed on Glee. I don't even remember what this episode is called. What is it called?
It's Acafellas.
Acafellas. Right. Okay. That makes sense. So Riley and I are going to talk about the third episode of Glee, which is called Acafellas. If you haven't listened to our first two episodes, you should definitely do that. The first episode is with my sister, which is on a different Spotify, which is very confusing, but she wouldn't let me use her Spotify account, so I needed to do a new one.
Oh, it's on a new Spotify.
Yes.
That explains a lot. I really just thought my phone was broken and wasn't showing it.
Yes. I still have some kinks to work out because I was only able to get it on Spotify so far and not Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, so I'm still working on it.
Okay.
My sister's the expert, so I'm still trying to figure it out. But yeah, we're going to talk about Acafellas. If you haven't watched Glee, you should definitely watch the episode before listening. Someone DM'd me and said that they listened to the podcast and they've never watched Glee.
That's got to be so confusing.
And they still are listening to it. And I'm like, that's the most chaotic thing.
That is very, very nice.
It's very sweet, but it's like, I would be stressed to the max.
Oh, yeah, because this show is such that if you don't have an idea of what's going on in the episode, listening to people talk about it is going to be so confusing.
Yes, and we're talking about it kind of like in a spliced way, too. Yeah. So the platform that we pay like a subscription to be able to record it is actually 3 hours a month and not 2 hours a month. So I think we're going to do 2 episodes, but just make them a little bit longer so we don't have to edit them as much.
Yeah.
Just because that's easier, and then we can go on for longer. But Riley, I have something very exciting to tell you.
Okay, I'm ready.
That I was waiting. I realized it like 3 days ago, and I wanted to text you so bad, and I didn't because I wanted to wait for your reaction on this. What is the name of like the actor who plays Kurt? I can't remember what his name is. Chris Colfer. I met him when I was like 15.
You did?
I totally like forgot. It was like in like a weird time in my life where like I blocked out a bunch of stuff, but he wrote like a children's book.
Yeah. He's like a best-selling author now.
Yeah. And I've actually never read the book, but my mom had read it.
Mm-hmm.
And my girlfriend at the time, both of us really liked the Glee, of course. And he was doing a book signing in the city, which is like an hour from where we live. So my mom's like, oh, like I really like this book and you guys can meet this like actor that you like. So we went and we like got pictures with him, and he said that he liked, my girlfriend and I wore matching Breakfast Club shirts, and he said that we were like too cute, and we were like holding hands, and he's like, young love. And it was like a wonderful moment.
It's so beautiful.
I like totally forgot about it until I was watching this, and I was like, I met that guy. Mm-hmm. I like totally forgot about it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. It makes me so happy.
He was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
He signed my book. I don't know where it is, but I have a signed
You should
copy
find
of his
it
book.
and like bring it to one of the episodes.
Yes.
That's so neat.
But that's my little like personal Glee update.
I love
of
that.
the week. So Riley and I were texting yesterday that there weren't a lot of actual Glee Club songs in this episode.
Yeah, this episode is low-key very disappointing in that regard. There's a lot of other things to talk about, but music-wise, it's very boring.
Yeah, I feel like so much and so little happens in this episode.
I agree.
Like, it's weird because like so much happens, but then at the end of the episode, it goes back to how it was at the beginning. Like nothing really changes, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. This is just an establishing episode, I think, to kind of like set the dynamic between the Glee Club and like the girls getting Santana, Brittany. Yeah. Brittany isn't named at this point, but Santana and Quinn established as like members, and they have like a really nice redeeming moment at the end, I think. So that's important. And then they do a lot of developing of like Will's family.
Yes. Well, I also wrote that it's like one of the main themes of the episode is like confidence.
Yes.
And talking about specifically Will's confidence, but it goes out to like everybody, like confidence, like do you have the guts to do it and like follow your dream and stuff.
Yes.
And it kind of goes between like Finn and Will and their confidence issues and stuff.
Yes. But they do it in such a chaotic way, which we'll get into. But it's a lot. Incredibly chaotic episode.
Yes.
Also, we have a first celebrity appearance. Like, as a celebrity. They appear as themselves.
Yes. It's
which
great.
Doesn't really happen often.
I love it.
Good.
Celebrity cameos are wonderful. There was a few moments, like, I watched this last night. The episode starts at dinner with Will, Terry, and Will's parents.
Yes, it starts at dinner.
Yes. My quote from this episode, this scene that I really loved is, well, Terry made hamburger casserole. And
I have this written down too.
Will's dad is like, oh, this is like really good. And she's like, oh yeah, it's hamburger casserole. Like, look out for bones.
I said that too.
I have a lot of questions.
Me too.
What's her recipe?
Right. Like, how did she, because
like, did she just get a cow and like a fresh cow?
Like, here's the thing about beef is that like the bones are huge.
Here's the thing about beef.
Big animals. And if you're getting bone in your hamburger meat, that's a problem. Also because it goes through a literal meat grinder.
Yeah. Like bones in fish, normal.
Yeah, plenty of little
chicken,
bones.
Normal.
They splinter easily, you know?
But
beef
I mean, maybe the next question is like, what is her hamburger meat made out of?
If it's not real hamburger, if she's like ground chicken or something like that. But I don't.
A lot of questions for her.
There's a lot of questions, and none of them get resolved.
No, that's where it ends. That's one of my favorite things, is that a lot of these strange moments that I have questions about, like, start and end so quickly and they just move on to the next part, which is
the writing style here.
It's like wonderful. I love the comedy style.
It's so good.
Anyway, so they're at dinner.
Oh, I have another comment about
yes,
dinner,
go ahead.
though. So there's a comment after Will exposes Terry's pregnancy. And I only say expose because we know it's not a real pregnancy. And Terry freaks out, but like very much internally. And Will's dad tries to cover it up, and he's like, don't even worry about it. I'm great at keeping secrets. I spent 6 months in the Hanoi Hilton. Do you know what that is?
I don't. I love these little
prisoner of war camp from the Vietnam War.
Oh, I love these little like Riley history lessons. It's so good. Do you like know these things, or do you research them?
I knew Sophie's Choice, but this one I had to research because
I appreciate like the attention to detail.
Oh, thank you. I just like little problematic things like that. I can't let them go because they're just like sprinkled in and then they drop it.
Yeah, it's so good. Okay, so scene summary. They're at dinner. Will and Terry are with Will's parents. Will is like so excited that he's having a baby, so he tells his parents that they're going to have a baby. And obviously they're not. We know that Terry's not actually pregnant. But then Will and his dad have this like moment of his dad kind of telling Will that he needs to, like, that he wishes that he followed his dreams more, essentially. And that like his life's going to change when he has a baby. And this kind of puts Will in this like panic state of like, oh my God, like I'm a teacher. I never followed my like music career dreams that he wanted.
Yeah. It's a weird conversation, honestly. I didn't really love it. And it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the episode being kind of weird. It's very like, I don't think it's toxic masculinity, but it's very much like normative masculinity.
For sure.
But that's what Will's dad is. So
yes. So then I think the next scene is they're in the Glee club, like the choir room. And they're rehearsing a dance number.
Yes.
And do you want to go ahead since I did the last one?
All I really said about this scene was that it kind of sets the tone for like double crossing with Cheerios. So Rachel basically speaks up about Will not being a good choreographer, which is like completely fair and valid, seeing as though he's one, a Spanish teacher, and two, kind of just like randomly volunteered for show choir, having 4 years of dance experience, assumably when he was in Glee Club in high school, which is like 10 years ago. So Rachel's like, you're a bad choreographer, essentially. She's like, this choreography is not going to get us to win nationals. We need to bring in Dakota Stanley. And this is also where they make the funny stab at Will for not having gone on to perform. Yes. So they're like,
which attacks his confidence more because he just had,
this poor man.
But something important to note is that Rachel only speaks up because Quinn and Santana, the Cheerios, speak to her before the Glee Club meeting, telling her about Dakota Stanley. And Dakota Stanley is like an award-winning choreographer who choreographs for their competition Vocal Adrenaline. And I guess he's really intense.
For anyone. Like, he'll choreograph for anybody. He's just a choreographer.
Yes.
Also, did you catch the line about them casting him as the understudy to Lumiere on Broadway?
Yes.
Especially, I thought that was such a funny joke because he's so short and Lumiere is usually cast pretty tall.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love that. Are you a musical theater fan?
I did musical theater all through high school. That's what I thought. Yeah.
We do find out, I think in the next scene, that Ken, the PE coach and football coach, and Emma, the love, what am I trying to say?
Lovesick?
No.
Romantic
interest for Will. That's what I was trying to say.
Yes.
Are officially together, which hurts Will to his core, even though he's married.
Right. And then they have this weird little line where they're like, we're both in relationships. We can talk about our relationships.
Yes. Like, it doesn't take away from the fact, like, yes, that makes it okay now. Now that Emma's in a relationship, they can be shady. Flirtiness is okay. Yes.
Yeah. Did you catch the name drop that they do in this scene?
I didn't. What is it?
So Glee does this thing where they'll name drop a character in person. Like, they'll name drop a celebrity's name and then bring the celebrity onto the show later as a named character. Which is very, very funny, and they do it multiple times. But this is the first time they do it, and they do it with John Stamos, who comes later.
Yes. Okay. That's funny, because I did notice that they said John Stamos, and because like I said in like the last couple episodes, I haven't watched this since I was like, the beginning of it I haven't watched since I was like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
So I was like, is he on this or am I tripping? Like, I could have. Yes. Okay. So they're in the. I let me know if I skip a scene, because I took notes on my phone, but I only took notes on the stuff that I like really cared about.
Okay. Yeah, I have a scene by scene little play by play. Cool. So if you skip something, I'll let you know.
Okay. The next scene that I have is when they're in the teacher's lounge.
And Sandy comes back.
Sandy is in the teacher's lounge.
Yes.
And I have a plot hole that I would like to discuss.
Okay. I'm ready.
So Sandy says that he is not allowed within 15 or 50 feet of minors or students because of the incident that, like, he was reported for, like, sexually harassing one of the students in the first episode, which is why he was fired.
And he also never denies it. Like,
he never denies it, which is shady as hell. But fast forwarding a little bit in the episode, he performs at the PTA meeting with Finn and Puck, who are minors.
Yep.
And he is within like 10 feet of them.
Yep.
Never mentioned again.
It's Josh Groban. It's the Josh Groban effect.
I was a little upset about that. Anyway.
Me too. But wait, before we talk about Sandy anymore, I want to tell a story, and this ends up being like not necessarily like good. We can like take it out, but I have to talk about this.
I'm so excited.
So I did theater all through high school. It was my favorite thing, although like I look back now and it was a terrible experience, but that's totally fine. Like, we're good. We're past it.
Okay.
My theater director, I'm not going to give him a name, but he was Sandy Ryerson.
Let's just call him Sandy.
Okay. Sandy was Sandy. The exact same person. Pastel shirts, totally very, very, very gay, obvious about it, talked about it all the time, creepy with boys. And after I graduated, stuff happened, and now he can't be within 50 feet of kids.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I know a Sandy, and it's terrible. And he would pull this Josh Groban stuff that he does later. So there's my story, but every time I see Sandy, I'm just like,
so we're in. I'm a little dazed.
I'm so sorry.
So they're in the teacher's lounge still. And what is his name? Henri.
Sweet Henri.
Who is the like wood shop teacher. He comes in to the teacher's lounge after just coming back from like, I guess like a leave of absence, because he lost his thumbs in wood shop.
Yes.
Because he drinks too much cough syrup. And Will's wife, Terry, was supposed to bring him like a cake to celebrate him coming back to work. But Terry doesn't come. Howard, her coworker from Sheets and Things, comes to deliver the cake.
Because Terry got stuck doing inventory because Howard apparently can't count higher than 30.
Yes. So Howard comes in with this grocery store style cake that has 2 like fondant thumb, like hand and thumb sculptures on top.
Yeah.
And so it's Will, Howard, Ken, and Henri all hanging out, and Sandy all hanging out in the teacher's lounge, eating cake together. Henri just like can't pick up his fork because he doesn't have thumbs, so he just takes a bite of the thumb, which is like my favorite. I loved that part in the scene. But so then they're talking about so they start singing to Henri. They start singing for He's a Jolly Good Fellow, which is so uncomfortable. Yeah. I had secondhand embarrassment during that scene.
Did you consider this a song for the episode? Because I didn't.
No.
Okay.
I didn't consider it a song.
Okay.
And I just considered it a very uncomfortable moment.
Yeah.
So they're singing to him, and then Will's like, hey, we were pretty good. Like, we did a pretty good job singing. Also, Ken has like a pretty good voice. Like, I was surprised.
Did you catch Ken's line about living at the YMCA, though?
Yes.
That cracked me up. I was like, doesn't he say something like, I have 4 shirts? I was like, is Ken okay? Anyways.
Ken is not okay.
Ken has a beautiful voice.
Ken has a great voice. And, okay, when I was hearing Howard sing, it sounds like they just took Will's voice.
I have that as a note. They dubbed Matthew Morrison over him and Henri.
I had a feeling. So it's just Will and Ken and Sandy singing.
Yes. Can confirm they did not do that with Ken.
Dang.
Yeah.
So they start singing at the table, and then this is when their boy band, their a cappella boy band is formed.
Yes, because Will turns to the camera and does this super cheesy, he goes, this is how we do it. And that's the whole transition.
Yes, and then they start practicing that song in Will's living room.
Apartment.
Yes, and so they're like, we have a boy band, and then Will's talking about how, like, his confidence is going up, and so they try to come up with a name for the boy band. I wish they would have gone with the testosterone myself.
Hysterical. I love that.
I thought that one was really good, but they ended up going with the Acafellas, which was Howard's idea. So, and if you're watching this episode, you might be like, where is Sandy? Sandy's not rehearsing. Sandy shows up to rehearsal, and Will just like closes the door in his face. He's like, yeah, we decided it's creepy when you're in.
As if this whole thing isn't already creepy. And gets creepier when they include minors later.
But literal children.
Yes.
Sandy showed up in a powder blue tux.
Yes. And they just straight up slam the door in his face.
Yes. It's wonderful. So Terry comes in to them rehearsing, and I quoted from her, if I don't get sleep, I could miscarry. Which is so ironic because if you remember from the multiple times we've said it, Terry is not pregnant. And so I feel like she's just trying to spout things out so that when she tells Will she's not pregnant, there's some truth. It's like, well, you didn't let me sleep. Like, this is all your fault. Like, I miscarried because you were up practicing with your boy band all night.
Yes. And at the same time, while she's trying to find excuses to miscarry, she's also trying so hard to get pregnant.
Yes.
Which is the next like little montage bit.
Yes. Of Terry and Will just having copious amounts of sex. And which Will thinks is because he's in a boy band.
That's so funny to me.
He thinks that because he started singing in a boy band, like, and this is like back to his confidence issues, that he thinks that like because he's doing something he's passionate about, he looks more confident. Terry wants to have sex with him all the time, and he makes, or I think his dad makes some comment, or Will does, that she's trying to have a twin.
Yeah.
So funny.
Also the funniest line to that in that scene to me that just caught me like the first time I watched it through was, we started doing it once a week.
Yes.
And that can be totally fine and normal for couples.
Yes.
I want to validate that, but they purposely picked it like a pretty low to medium amount of sex.
Yes.
Like, that's not a lot.
When he said once, I was like, once a day? Like, they must have a lot of free time to, like, be able to do that. They both have jobs. He's got Glee and Acafellas, and he says once a week, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I forgot that they are, and that they're, like, actual adults with jobs.
Right.
So I think the next scene is the Cheerios are talking to Sue. Am I right?
Did I miss that? No, I think the next one is Rachel and Schuster have the weird scene where she comes in with cookies.
Yes. I just didn't write anything about that.
I didn't either, because it's just weird. And they decide to hire Dakota. That's really all that comes from it, is that they, like, they're officially like, we're going to hire Dakota Stanley.
Yes.
So,
well, Rachel they decided they're going to hire Dakota Stanley to choreograph for them, and Rachel makes I'm sorry cookies to bring to Will to try to get him to come back to Glee Club, and he's like, I'm too busy with the Acafellas, and like, you're right, I'm not a good choreographer, so like
he's totally dropped them.
Which is so immature. He's being very passive aggressive with them too.
Yeah,
and it's something that like I feel like it's very much the energy of like teachers, like when there's a class that's talking, it's like the energy of a teacher going like, I'll wait.
Mm-hmm. I hate that.
I hate it
so much.
I'm guilty of it at summer camp. I used to do that all the time until like I started going to public school. Yeah. And I had someone say it to me and I was like, oh, I don't want to be that bitch. So I'm not going to do that anymore. So then the next scene is with Sue and the Cheerios.
It is, yes.
So they're in Sue's office, and it's with just Santana and Quinn, or Santana, Quinn, and Brittany?
It's just Santana and Quinn.
Yes, because Brittany is still, like you said, unnamed.
She doesn't have a name.
Which sucks, because Brittany rocks. We love Brittany.
We see her out and about doing the things. We'll see her later in her most iconic dance part of, in my mind, this whole series, but that's probably
what? We'll have to discuss that later, because there's an entire Brittany episode. Excuse you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know that, but also like the mystery, I think, makes it better for me, because who this beautiful girl is. Anyways,
I think maybe that scene, we'll talk about it more when it gets there. I think that scene only means more to us because we know who she is and we can point her out.
Exactly.
But if you'd watched this like from the beginning and weren't rewatching it might not mean as much.
I agree. But yes, we have Jane and the girls. Sue and the girls. And we learned some interesting things about Sue during this scene.
I love it.
She was in the Special Forces.
And now she is a high school
cheerleading
coach. I mean, this could be her version of retirement, because we don't know how old she is.
Yes, we do. She's not even 30.
Wait, what?
They say that in, I think, the first episode. She's basically like, wait, do I have it in my second episode notes? I might. Let me check.
I don't remember that. I always thought that she was older than that.
Mm-mm. They have a whole bit about her not even being 30 yet.
That's so funny. She's a very interesting character. But essentially in this scene is like Sue is trying to tell Santana and Quinn, like checking in with them on the infiltration of the Glee Club. And we find out like Sue's main motive is because she wants her full Cheerios budget back. Yeah. Because she wants to buy a fog machine.
Right. Why? But I have a lot of questions about the fog machine, what she's going to use it for. But I had a point here. Oh, we talked about that last time, is that we didn't know why there was so much competition between the two groups.
Yes.
It must be what it is because they're taking so much of the budget. Yeah. And also, Figgins gave them, like, new uniform budget and, like, things like that, too, after the whole Push It scandal. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so now the Cheerios are out even less money. And just to reiterate from the past two episodes, it's, like, 2008. So huge recession, like money is a bigger deal in terms of like school funding and stuff. Yeah. So
it's very important to understand that in the context of the show.
Yeah. Anyway, so you were going to say something about Sue?
Was I?
About her being 30?
Oh, yeah. It's not, I don't think it's in the last episode, but she does have a scene. It might be when she's writing in a journal in a later episode, but she's like, here I am, not even 30. Like she's 29. She's 29.
I love it.
So she's not retired. Like, this is her very much like prime time of her career.
I mean, maybe she is retired from the special forces.
Yes, she could be retired from the special forces.
And so this was just like her next phase of life, is doing something a little more chill in the Sue world. Man. So my next note is Mercedes. I think it's about Mercedes.
Yeah.
So Mercedes, our sweet, lovely Mercedes, is watching all of these high school couples kissing in the hallway. And she's starting to feel a little jealous. Also, she looks like such a little baby in this scene. Like, she's so young. It's so sweet. This whole
episode, she's like
so
she
young.
Looks really young.
Anyway, so she's watching all of these people kiss, and so she really wants to date somebody because she's never been kissed before. And so she starts talking to Kurt, who comes up behind her in his locker, and she asks Kurt if he's ever kissed anybody. Kurt, if he's ever kissed anyone, and he's like, oh, just like my elbow or something like that. And so this kind of like sets up the scene of, or sets up the storyline of Kurt and Mercedes' friendship, / Mercedes' crush on Kurt. Do you have anything to add?
Just that Quinn and Santana have a moment at the end of the scene where they are being awful again, where they come up behind her and are like, you could get in on that, you know. They're like, we could hook you up with Kurt, knowing, and like they know that
Kurt isn't straight.
Right. They kind of have a feeling that that's not, I mean, Kurt hasn't come out, but just in like the way he dresses and things like that, they had an idea, and they were very much setting Mercedes up for failure. That's the whole point.
It's part of their like infiltration of the Glee Club and just trying to destroy the friendships and stuff.
Also, I owned the headscarf she's wearing when I was 12.
Wow.
That's the other, not the exact one, but like very close. I bought it in New York City off of one of those street vendors, and it was
love it.
It was good. But yeah, I I saw that and I was like, oh, I have that. So yeah, that's all I have for that.
My next note is Acafellas are singing at a dive bar.
Yes. Actually, I think it's a sports bar, but it could be very much like a sports bar, dive bar situation. And they sing
sports bar. And I wrote, Figgins is still vibing.
Yep.
Excited to go, which is very sweet of him.
It is very sweet. It's
very supportive.
He's a very supportive guy. I have a note that just said Howard slaps, but it's actually just Matt Morrison. Same for Henri.
Yes.
I listened to that the first time and didn't catch it, and I was like, whoa.
I listened again,
and I was like,
I didn't know about Henri, but I did catch it with Howard, because it was like they just altered his voice just a tiny bit. And so my question here was like, there's this shot where it's like Emma is in front of Terry, and Emma is in focus, and Terry is out of focus, and Will is like looking in that direction, and so you don't like, it's implied that he's actually been singing and performing for Emma and not Terry.
Yeah. And
Terry's getting the idea, like she notices that he's singing to Emma.
Terry's a lot of things, but she is not dumb.
No, that's true. And then Figgins, Will's parents sell a bunch of CDs for Will.
It's very sweet.
It's very sweet. Will's mom says, I didn't have to take off my top for any of them either. Which implied that she would have, in fact, taken off her top.
We learned so much about Will's mom in this episode.
Yes, we do.
In the 3 scenes that she's in.
Yes. But Figgins approaches Will and the Acafellas and is like, hey, I'd love for you to perform at the PTA assembly or meeting or whatever. Like it'll like entertain the parents essentially.
Right.
And that's all I have for this scene. If you have anything else.
No, that's pretty much all I have. I just thought it was very, very funny. Also, Ken has a beautiful singing voice.
I love Ken's voice. It's
so nice.
I like it better than Will's a little bit.
Oh, me too.
If I'm correct, the next scene is the Glee Club going to visit Vocal Adrenaline.
No, there's a scene
there's
in between.
There's a little scene in between? Okay.
So there's the scene in the teacher's lounge again where Sandy comes back in. And if you'll remember, we kicked Sandy out. Sandy's not in the Acafellas anymore because he was creepy. And he was the creepy one.
Yes.
And he has a declaration for the guys. He goes, 2 words, Josh Groban. And everyone is like, what? Like, literally what? And Howard has a scene where he just goes, who's Josh Groban? And Sandy looks at him and goes, who is Josh Groban? Kill yourself. Like, it's terrible.
That's terrible, but it's so funny.
Yeah, so that happens. And so we understand now that Josh Groban is coming to the PTA meeting because Sandy asked him to, because they've been pen pals since he accidentally friended him on MySpace. Yes. Which is going to be that's going to come back, and it's going to be really funny when it does. So they let him back into the group because they want a celebrity appearance, or they want to have a celebrity connection, because the blogs are all a Twitter, to use Sandy's words, that he is looking for an opening act. So they're trying to get in with Josh Groban, so they let Sandy back in the group. That's a very long-winded version of that scene.
Beautifully stated.
Thank you.
The next one is the Glee Club is going to visit Vocal Adrenaline.
Carmel High.
Yes. So they're going to go visit because they want to see Dakota Stanley in action and ask him to choreograph for their Glee Club. So first we see Kurt's fancy car, which is like setting up a future scene. So Kurt has this super fancy car. I don't even know what car it is because I
think it's a BMW.
Yeah. And his dad bought him the car so that he would stop wearing knee-length tight sweaters to school. Mm-hmm. And while he's saying that, he is wearing a knee-length tight sweater.
He sure is, because his dad didn't say anywhere else. His dad just said to school, so...
So then there's this really sweet scene of, like, Mercedes kind of, like, leaning on Kurt and, like, trying to be flirty with him. And Rachel and Tina notice, and they're like, uh-oh. Like, we know that he's not straight. And Mercedes is just going to get her heart broken. Mm-hmm. And then she thinks that Mercedes thinks that she's, like, getting Kurt to go on a date with her, but really he thinks he's just hanging out with a friend.
Right.
Then 2 girls run out from, like, the auditorium at the high school, and one of them starts throwing up in a trash can. And Rachel goes up to them and asks, like, hey, like, we're here to see Dakota Stanley. And the girl's like, no, he's a monster. Like, you don't want to see him.
Yes. The other girl who is supporting the girl throwing up, like being a good friend, has a neck brace on.
Yes.
She has a whole ass neck brace on. Like, yes. She should not be at a rehearsal.
No.
She should be nowhere near there, and she's still rehearsing with a neck brace. Also, they drop a line here where that Vocal Adrenaline rehearses from 2:30 to midnight.
Yeah.
Every day. Which is crazy.
That's so crazy for high schoolers. Like, then when do they do their homework?
Never.
They just don't do it.
Because there's a later, I watched too much of Glee, like, going the later episodes. I'm watching it through at 2 different places currently.
Yes,
but
I do that with different shows too.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good time. But they have a bit of a scene later where they basically say that they have people doing the schoolwork for the Vocal Adrenaline kids, because the Vocal Adrenaline kids' main priority is bringing the school good press.
Yeah.
So,
so we get to see the Vocal Adrenaline rehearsal, which is your fave matching outfits. Mm-hmm. And they perform Mercy.
They do.
Which is incredible. They do a great job.
It's pretty good, yeah.
After they're watching their rehearsal, Dakota Stanley's like, get off my stage, because he's an asshole. Mm-hmm. And he talks to the Glee Club kids about, like, the pricing as he's getting into his fancy car. Yep. And it's $8,000 per number to choreograph. Song.
And a $10,000 bonus if they place in the top 3. And if you're with Dakota Stanley, you will place in the top 3.
That's what he says.
Yes, it is.
Which is, so it's $10,000 extra dollars.
Yeah.
So if they perform just one number and they place in the top 3, that's $18,000, which the Glee Club gets $60 a month. That's how much money. That's their budget.
So they have to have a fundraiser.
So they have to, so they've decided to do a fundraiser. Mm-hmm. Well, they haven't decided yet. They're doing a fundraiser, but you kind of get the idea that they're going to, because you get this great shot of the Cheerios. Quinn, I think, is Brittany there too? Quinn and Santana?
Yeah, Brittany's always there. She just doesn't say anything.
So Brittany, Quinn, and Santana, like there's this great like little close-up shot of them like having this look, like mischievous look, like they have an idea.
So we're at the PTA meeting.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, wait, there's a bit before that.
Oh, okay. What did I miss?
So there's a few scenes. So the first one is Ken and Will is attempting to teach Ken how to dance. It is not going well at all. And they get a call from Howard, and Howard basically says, I can't be in the Acafellas anymore. So they're down one member. Mm-hmm. Then Emma walks in, and first of all, Ken thinks Emma is there to break up with him, and he has a whole moment where he's like, not in front of some other guy, Emma, please, which is hysterical.
Well, then it's got like Kent has confidence issues too, bringing back our theme of confidence for the episode.
I just wrote a note that said, poor Ken is so insecure. And then, wait, sorry, I got off track.
No, it's okay.
That's
Emma
the end
comes
of the
in.
Scene. No, it's not the end.
Emma comes in to tell them when Ken thinks that she's going to break up with him.
Right.
Emma comes in to say, like, hey, Sandy and Henri are together because Henri drank too much cough syrup.
6 bottles of cough
syrup. And the school won't let him come back until he goes to rehab. And Sandy's with him in the hospital right now. So neither of them are coming to the show.
Yeah, they're out 2 members now. So they're starting to panic because they're performing at the PTA meeting and they need 2 more members. And then there's a scene where Puck saves the day in a sense. And he's like, I want to be in the Acafellas because moms. And he has this whole cougar story arc that's really uncomfortable. But basically, Puck has a pool cleaning business.
Yes. And he does such a good job with his pool cleaning business because he sleeps with the moms.
Mm-hmm. So they recommend him around.
Yes. I also, like, getting a little dark here for a minute because recently, within, like, I think it was in the past, 5 years, Puck, the actor who plays Puck, I don't know what his name is.
Mark Hamill.
He was arrested for like child pornography.
He was, yeah.
And he's not alive anymore, but he was in prison for child pornography. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why, but like this scene felt very like, it felt extra uncomfortable watching it, like after knowing that.
Right.
Recently, because it's like, it's the opposite. Because when I was watching, I was like, this is so, it was like so wrong. Because I was like, oh my God, like he's a minor. These are all like women and it's only made okay because he's like an attractive guy. But it's still, he's like 16.
Yeah, max 16.
Yeah. So, so there was that.
Yeah, that made me really uncomfortable as well. And it hurts me to know that because Puck does have a lot of really likable moments in the show. And it's really hard to separate who he is, who he was as a person in his life and who he played on a character on the show because they are such different people.
Yeah.
And everything that happened since the show stopped airing to Mark and with Mark and because of Mark is really, really tragic and sad.
Yeah.
So,
and Puck was one of my favorite characters too. And I think like it really like it definitely changes the way you watch a show when you know more about the actors too.
Yeah.
Because even like when we talked about in the last episode with Rachel, like knowing more about her as an actress and a person and the way that she behaved on set really changes the way that you view her as a character. And it like, so
yeah, I have the same thing with Finn.
Yes.
It hurts me. I love Finn's character. He is so lovable and there's a scene before the scene with Puck that with Finn and Mr. Shu. Oh, right.
So Finn goes to Mr. Shu and is like, hey, I'm quitting Glee Club too because you haven't been showing up. And people at school people on the football team are calling Finn Deep Throat because he is on the football team or he's in Glee Club. And so he's like getting bullied for being in Glee. And Mr. Shu, who's like the reason that he joined Glee pretty much, is not showing up.
So I'm pretty sure this is them calling him Deep Throat is one, they're making like a gay joke, but
yes,
two, that is a funny coincidence because, and it's funny that they chose that tagline.
Yeah,
because Deep Throat is also the name of the I don't think he would be considered a whistleblower. The anonymous source from the Watergate scandal is known as Deep Throat.
Oh,
so he's double crossing.
There you go.
Finn is double crossing. And I don't know if that's intentional, but it definitely, like, it made me giggle because I was like...
You're lovely. You're watching this show like I write analysis essays for my literature classes.
Amazing.
And it's so good.
That makes me happy.
So it makes me... I love finding stuff like that in shows. Mm-hmm. It's the best. So Finn is going to quit Glee Club, and Mr. Shu is like, hey, do you want to join the Acafellas instead? Mm-hmm. And then we have the scene with Puck and Ken.
Yes.
And Santana... so one of the other reasons that Puck is wanting to do this to get hot moms is because Santana, who was dating Puck, dumps him because he has a low credit score.
Which is hysterical.
Because she wants someone with financial security.
But it's also wrong. If he's 16, he can't have a credit score. You cannot accrue credit until you're 18 years old. Yes.
It's really wonderful.
It's so funny.
I said that... So then there's a scene where Mr. Shu is trying to teach Puck and Finn how to dance. Mm-hmm. And I just found this scene so sweet and pure.
I said wholesome. Yeah.
It's so wholesome.
So
he's trying to teach them how to dance, and both Puck and Finn are really like stiff and rigid, and they just have like a really hard time letting loose. And because they're both like teenage boys who are on the football team and have this like masculinity complex, they start like arguing and fighting with each other essentially. And there's this whole part where like Puck pushes Finn, and Mr. Shu is like, hey, like both of you play baseball, right? Mm-hmm. Like you have to like loosen your hips to play baseball. Yeah. So they redo the dance scene after Mr. Shu like teaches them how to like let loose, connecting to them in a way that they know how. Yeah. And then after they do the dance perfectly, Finn goes, that baseball thing was really cool, Mr. Shu. And you have this little light bulb moment for Mr. Shu where he's like, in my mind, it's like, performing isn't what I'm supposed to do, but teaching is what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. And it kind of connects at the end of the episode too. And I love it because like, this is like the perfect way to describe a good teacher. Like taking something that someone's having a hard time with and relating it to something that they know how to do is like, that's the definition of a teacher. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I loved that scene.
It's so good. It's so good. As much as we trash talk Will Shu, he is unfortunately a fantastic Glee Club teacher. I'm not going to say a fantastic Spanish teacher because he's not. Yes. But he's a really, really good choir director really well. Type person.
He does have some bad moments, like we said with the last episode, where he performs instead of letting his students perform. He can be kind of creepy with his students, especially later on in the season and the show as it goes. Yeah. But there are moments like this that I feel like he has total redemption, and like you get why he's so likable. Mm-hmm.
There's a quote from that scene that I want to reiterate though, from Puck, which made me laugh. Not the first time through, but the second time through when I watched it, I cracked up when Shu goes like, well, you guys play baseball, right? What does your coach always tell you to do? And Puck goes, if you charge the pitcher, bring the bat. It's just so funny. And then Will's like, hilarious. No. Like, no.
That is a good line.
Because you're not supposed to do that, because you're not supposed to beat the pitcher with the bat. Anyway.
Our next scene is such a wonderful scene. Is the car wash.
You forget? No. There's one.
No, I missed one.
There's just one. It's the gayvention.
The gayvention.
The gayvention, which is also wonderful.
It is wonderful, but there's a lot of reasons I love the car wash scene.
Oh, I agree.
Go ahead with the gayvention.
For the gayvention, it's Tina and Rachel, and they come up to Mercedes, and they're like, we got to talk. We got to have a gayvention. And then I think it's Rachel who goes, that means a gay intervention. As if it wasn't.
He has to explain.
Yes. And then Tina has this line, they're like talking, and Tina has this really funny line where she goes, he's Lady Fabulous. which is so funny. But basically Mercedes is like, no, he's not. He wouldn't be like going on dates with me and everything if he was, or he would have told me. And that basically sets up the next scene, which is the Bikini Car Wash. And this is our fundraiser so that we can get Dakota Stanley.
So one also thing that Mercedes says during the gay mention is that like nobody is asking her out, and Kurt is sweet and nice and talks with her and spends time with her. Yeah. And she's like, and that's enough for me, which is like, is really sweet. And it like, yeah, I liked that line. Yeah. Which even though it's like, it doesn't end, like they don't end up together, like their friendship is still like enough as like a partnership kind of thing for her.
Their friendship persists too. Like it's they're consistently on good terms pretty much the entire show.
So yes, now we're at the car wash, which is amazing because all of the Cheerios are there helping with the car wash, and they're all wearing their Cheerio skirts and bikini tops and high heel like sneakers, which is great. And so Sue is talking to Emma, and Emma's like, wow, it's so nice of you to like have the Cheerios help. Like that's like the nicest thing I've ever seen you do. And Sue calls Emma, first she calls her Irma, which is wonderful.
Yes, I started a list.
Oh yeah?
On that document that we started, that I started, called Is Sue Sylvester Okay?
Yes.
That's, I don't know if your sense of humor is like my sense of humor, but in my mind that is top comedy.
It is top comedy. Okay. I laughed very hard when I saw it.
I just have a list of Sue's illnesses, Sue's life experiences, and Sue's names for Emma, and I put Irma on the list. So.
I love it. She also, so Emma says, like, car washes are so fun. Like, if I was, like, good during the week as a kid, my dad would let me wash his car all weekend, and I'd, like, go get my toothbrush to clean it. Mm-hmm. And Sue goes, you know, the way you use your mental illness to help these kids is really inspiring. And I loved it so much. It's so funny. And Emma's look on her face was just, like, she was so shocked. Because Sue is not afraid to speak her mind. No. She'll say exactly what comes to her head. And that killed me. I thought it was so funny.
It was really, really funny. A good bit.
So Mercedes and Kurt are washing Kurt's fancy car. Mm-hmm. And Mercedes is like, hey, you know, we've been out on a few dates. Now can we just, like, make things official and like, be boyfriend or girlfriend? And Kurt is like, oh, no, like, I'm in love with somebody else. And so we get this shot of Finn. Mm-hmm. And then Rachel like pops up in front of Finn when she's like washing
the wheel or something, and then comes up.
And so Kurt has been looking at Finn, so we can assume that Kurt has a crush on Finn. Mm-hmm. But then when Mercedes turns around, Rachel is there, and so Mercedes is like, oh my god, he likes Rachel instead. He doesn't like me. So she just takes a rock and smashes his windshield.
She commits a whole crime.
Yes. Whole crime. And then we have our first, like, actual legit number that isn't the Acafellas.
Yes.
Which is Mercedes.
It's not a Glee number. It's just Mercedes with a backup of the Cheerios.
Yes. And she's singing Bust the Windows Out Your Car. Mm-hmm. And it's her first solo of the whole show.
Yep. And it's a good one. It's a good one.
It's great. And I said, why do the Cheerios have heels on if they're washing cars?
Yeah. There's really no explanation for that. But also, like, a Mercedes is wearing a leather jacket and washing cars. Like,
that's true.
Kurt was wearing a whole, like, marching band outfit, I'm pretty sure it was. So none of them are really dressed for the gig. The Cheerios budget, however, must be just astronomical.
Yes.
Anyways, Heather Morris dancing in this scene is absolutely iconic and beautiful and incredible.
Her dancing is amazing.
She's so beautiful.
She is beautiful. I think the next part is Dakota Stanley.
It is, but I want to bring up one more thing.
Yes, do it.
Fact. It's not even really history, but it's just a funny little, like, Easter egg.
I love it.
So at the beginning, when Kurt and Mercedes are talking, before the, can we just make it official conversation with Mercedes? She goes, oh no, Kurt goes, we're going straight to the Sound of Music sing-along after this.
Yes.
Which is a line that pays homage to Kurt's character and also Chris Colfer. Because Kurt wasn't written into the original show. He was not supposed to be a character. But he auditioned for Artie, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. And they gave him his own character.
Oh.
They didn't know what his name was going to be. But they told Chris Colfer that he had Von Trapp written all over him, which is the name of the kids and the family in The Sound of Music. And Kurt goes, or not Kurt, Chris Colfer is like, yeah, I was in The Sound of Music, actually. And they said, what character did you play? He goes, Kurt. And that's where Kurt's name is from.
Oh, that's really cute.
Yeah, when they reference The Sound of Music, that's what I think of. But also, it's funny because he didn't know that they made a character for him, so he came back to do his, like, read. I guess there's, like, a final read in the acting audition process, and he didn't know if he was going to get it, and then he realized he was the only person there, and he was like, why am I the only person here? And then the producers were like, we made the character literally for you. Like, this is just you. It's really cute.
That is the most flattering thing, I think, ever. Like, they liked him so much that they changed everything in their show for him.
They wrote in a brand new character.
And I feel like he carried the show a lot of the time. Like, there were some parts where I'm like, I remember watching just for Kurt at some points. Mm-hmm. Like, he was such a big part of the show.
His storyline, I think especially, like, in later seasons, is my favorite part.
Yeah, me too. Next we have Dakota Stanley.
We sure do.
Who shows up to do choreography for the Glee Club. Mm-hmm. He immediately gives everyone diet plans, and Mercedes' diet plan is just to drink coffee. Then
I'm so upset about everything there, but it's okay.
Then he cuts Artie because Artie can't dance.
You're not trying hard enough. At what? At walking. So Artie also
cuts Mercedes and Tina because they, like, don't have the right look. Yeah. He tells the Cheerios that they're perfect, not to change a thing.
They're all, like, smirking. We're like, yeah.
They're like, yeah, we know.
We know.
He tells Rachel to get a nose job. Mm-hmm. And he tells Finn that he's too tall and that his hands drag on the ground when he walks.
Frankentine, I think is what he calls him. And he also goes, I feel like a woodland creature next to you.
I know.
Which I didn't really realize how tall he was.
Yeah, he's like massive. He's like humongous. 6', I think.
Let's see. I'm going to Google it again. Okay. We're going to say, how tall is, oh my God, what's his name?
Corey Monteith.
Corey, thank you.
I feel like when did he die? Was it 2015, 2016?
15, I think it was. Oh, no, excuse me, 2013.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's a long time ago.
He's 6'4".
It's interesting to think about, like, what celebrity deaths, like, affected you as a kid. And I remember, like, I liked Glee at the time, and I hadn't become super obsessed with it yet.
Right.
But I remember I was at my friend's house, my friend who would later become my girlfriend, and we both watched Glee together. And I didn't have a smartphone, I don't think, but she did, and she, like, got a notification that he died. Mm-hmm. And I just remember crying with her about it because we were like, we didn't really know why at the time. I don't think it was, like, right when he died.
Right.
Like, there wasn't, like, a cause of death.
No.
So.
Yeah, and also I read the Glee books. Oh. Because they made a TV show and then they wrote books afterwards, which is a really weird order of doing things.
Yeah.
But I loved the books. Exactly. And I got upset because that basically meant in my 13-year-old brain that they weren't going to continue the book series, when in reality they weren't going to continue the book series because it, like, wasn't profitable and also was kind of weird. So that's why I got upset initially, and it didn't really hit me until, like, my friends started talking about it. But yeah, it's a bummer. Corey Monteith, very tall.
Very tall man. So basically there's this moment where everyone in the Glee Club is going to quit except for the Cheerios because they're like, well, if you don't want me here, like, or if you're not going to let them be here, I don't want to be here. Yeah. And Rachel has this moment and she says, everyone starts talking about people that were told they weren't going to make it, but then did. So it starts with Rachel talking about Barbra Streisand, and she was like, everyone told her to get a nose job, and she didn't, and she still became famous, so I'm not going to either. Mm-hmm. And it kind of ends with this, like, everyone's like, oh, we don't need to change ourselves to be a part of Glee Club. Just because they're not going to have great choreography, like, doesn't mean they aren't going to stand out. They're going to stand out because they're unique, because they're all different. Right. And that's, like, what's going to put them above everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so Rachel goes straight up to Dakota Stanley, she goes, you're fired. And I'm taller than you.
That's my favorite. There it is.
Our next part is the PTA meeting with the Acafellas. I said Puck's voice is to die for. I love it. I love it. It's so good. I said it's a very sexual song to be singing with children.
Yeah, it's really inappropriate.
I don't know what song it is, but
I Want to Sex You Up is the name of the song.
I Want to Sex You Up. Yes. I feel like that's not something that should be sung with children. I'm also, as I'm watching this, realizing why my parents didn't want me to watch it when I was 12.
Yeah, there's like, we're on episode 3, and there's already been so much innuendo.
Oh, and so much, like, just sex as well.
Yeah, lots of just sex scenes, too.
Yeah.
So
I remember, I was thinking about it while I was watching this last episode, because there are some kids that I used to babysit who are now 12, and I'm like, I would never, ever let them watch this, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And,
it's pretty raunchy.
Then I also, like, made another note that Sandy is definitely within 50 feet of Finn and Puck.
100%.
Once again, Terry knows that Will is looking at Emma during the performance. And I think Ken also notices. Yeah,
Ken is also aware. He has a moment on stage where he looks at Emma and, like, follows her line of sight, and it's to Will.
Yes.
But we also know before they go on stage that Josh Groban is, in fact, in the audience.
Yes, which is very exciting.
Fact. And everyone is really shook by it, as they absolutely should be.
Well, because also, like, not only is he coming, but I think he was, like, it's kind of implied that he's coming to potentially expand the Acafellas opportunities for performing. I think they even mentioned, like, an opening in one of his shows or something like that.
Yes, that's what their whole reason for letting Cindy back in the group was, so that they could potentially become an opening act for his tour.
Yes.
So, yes. But then, after they finished their song, also, this is a side note, but untied bow ties really piss me off. I don't think they're sexy. I think that they look weird.
I think they look like noodles.
They do. And not, like, in a good way. But afterwards, we're backstage, and
go ahead.
Okay, I'll take this. Josh Groban comes backstage with his bodyguard, who is large.
Yes,
large man, and
he's very tall.
They're talking about, like, how excited they are that he was there, and he was like, "Yeah, I came because I was, what is it?
I was in town for something."
He was in town. What does it mean to make somebody a queen or, like, a king? What's the word? I'm gonna say indoctrinating.
Oh, coronation.
Coronate. Yeah. Oh, that wasn't the word that I was looking for either.
Well, coronation. I only know that from Frozen. So
I love that for you. But they were basically inducting. They were inducting Run DMC into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is in Cleveland, so that makes sense. Celebrities
not coronation.
Not coronation. No, I don't even know why that was in my brain. It wasn't in my brain. It was still the word I was looking for. And he decided to stop by, and then he goes, "Which one of you is Sandy?" And Sandy does this little, like, wave, like, this creepy little wave, and he's like, "Stop contacting me." We learn in this scene that Sandy has not only repeatedly emailed him, texted him after Josh Groban changed his number somehow, sent him nude photos and edible arrangements, all of which are very funny.
Yes, edible arrangements, that part got me.
I know.
So he gives Sandy a restraining order.
Yes, he serves him with a restraining order, which is weird for a number of reasons. One, because he does it in person, and that's not what you're supposed to do.
Yes. When
you serve a restraining order. But he does have his bodyguard there. And everyone is just, like, genuinely shook, including Sandy.
And Shu is obviously disappointed because, like, this is the end of the Acafellas.
It really is, yes. Because they can't come back from that, basically. Like, there's no way to... At this point, wouldn't it just be Ken, Will, and 2 minors? And that's just weird.
Yes.
So, it's over.
I have a question.
Okay.
Does Shu's mom sleep with Josh Groban?
I don't know. Is that what we're supposed to, like, get from that?
That's what I'm assuming.
I think that was just... I think that was genuinely just put in there to confuse everyone.
I think so, too. Because there's this little scene that makes you think that she's going to sleep with Josh Groban because she, like... They're, like, flirting together. And she mentions that she's had a few drinks. And Will and...
At a PTA meeting. Wait.
At a PTA meeting. But Will and his dad are like, "Oh, yeah, like, where did your mom go?" And he's like, "Oh, she's probably just, like, talking to somebody or something.
And then Terry goes, maybe she tripped and hit her head again. Like, super casually, wasn't even, like, concerned.
Kills me. But so then we also find out in this scene that Will inspired his dad to go back to law school. And Will's like, you know, I think the Acafellas are done because, like, I think my true calling is to be a teacher, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It's very sweet.
Which is very wholesome.
Yes.
But yeah, I think back to the Josh and Mrs. Schuster, they've hinted now twice in this episode about her having an alcohol problem.
Yeah.
First at the sports bar, but second here. And yeah, this scene is just really, really strange, and they never resolve it. And I think that's kind of the point, but I'm upset about it because, like, it's so unnecessary, and it kind of just threw me off.
Yes, I agree.
Like, they could have just written her into that scene, no problem.
I also think that if they wanted her to have the little thing with Josh Groban and, like, have that little, like, weird hookup kind of moment, that, I mean, I can't remember how often she is in the show, but, like, having mentions of it in the future would be funny. Like, if, like, listening to a Josh Groban song and she, like, changes the station or something because she's uncomfortable, like, now hearing it. Like, moments like that could be funny in the future. I don't remember if they even...
I don't even think they mention it again, but it is really funny. It's a weird little quip, and that's the end of that scene. And then we have a lovely scene between Mercedes and Kurt.
Yes.
Where... Do you want to do this one? You can do this one.
Sure. So Kurt is talking to Mercedes, and he's like, well, he tells her that he doesn't actually like Rachel, because Mercedes is like, I hope you and Rachel have a happy relationship together. Like, you guys will make
loud babies.
And Kurt's like, I don't like Rachel. And he tells her that he is gay. And she's like, well, why didn't you just tell me? And he's like, well, I haven't told anybody before. And Mercedes is like, well, like, you're in Glee. Like, the whole part of Glee Club is to not be afraid to show the world who you are, which I think is, like, why Glee is so appealing to people. Is, like, I mean, obviously it's a group of people from all different walks of life. Like, everybody in Glee Club is so different and unique. Like, even the Cheerios, who seem like they're all really similar as you get to know them more, each of them is so, like, I feel like all of the characters are really, like, fleshed out and developed as the show goes on, which can bring in people who watch the show from all different perspectives. Like, I remember in high school when I was watching it, when my girlfriend and I watched it, and seeing, like, two girls in a show together was, like, incredible to us. Like, two girls who were in a relationship. So things like that, like, this line from Mercedes is, like, encapsulates the entire series of like, Glee is for everybody, which I love.
Yeah. And I have a note just about, like, what it meant for primetime television, or just, like, the cultural impact of this moment. I was researching it a tiny bit, research very light term. I went on one website because I was just, like, thinking about the history of LGBTQ, like, queer characters on TV. There isn't much of one, and it's more so recent. So, like, the first show that openly, I'm pretty sure one of the first shows that openly talked about being gay,
Will and Grace.
Grey's Anatomy and Will and Grace. But Grey's Anatomy was primetime TV. Like, Will and Grace did it too. But Grey's Anatomy was a humongous show, and it had a huge viewership. I know I haven't seen all of Will and Grace, but I know that it was relevant. But those were, like, a couple of the first two, and then having a teenage boy come out on primetime television once, and this is, like, Glee's beginning, but it started out as a pretty big show.
Well, and gay marriage wasn't even legal at the time.
Especially not in Ohio.
Yeah.
So this was a big, big deal for queer representation in media.
Yeah. Oh, I have goosebumps.
I know. It made me really happy too.
About LGBT representation on shows, like TV shows and stuff. I did a paper about, in my linguistics class, actually, about the word queer and, like, LGBT language and how it's evolved over time. And the main point of the paper was how the word queer went from, like, a derogatory word to now part of the LGBT acronym, and Q for queer and questioning. But something that was interesting about a show that I know both of us really liked, which is Pretty Little Liars, which we talked about in our last episode, that we both really liked it, is that when that show came out, which I think is around the same time as this show, I think it was 2010, one of the characters on the show, Emily, dates girls on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire time on the show, they call her gay and not a lesbian.
Yeah.
And they actually thought about this a lot. The reason that they called her gay, which is totally fine if a woman wants to identify herself as gay, or like someone who's not a man identifying themselves as gay. But it's typically used to describe two men who are in a relationship, or a man who's interested in men. The word lesbian is trying to be used more for women who prefer to date or who date women. But the reason that they didn't use it is because the word lesbian is so like ingrained with the porn industry that they were afraid that the word lesbian was too sexualized for a TV show, which is why they called her gay on the show. And for the longest time, they don't even call her girlfriend. They just call her her friend, and they refer to her as a partner for a while even, and not a girlfriend, because they were like too worried about the way that the show was going to come across, which I just found very interesting.
This is a very culturally relevant moment in television. Yes. And also it was 2010 when Pretty Little Liars came out.
Yes, that's what I thought, 2010, which is 2 years after Glee started.
Yes.
Okay, so the next scene is like going to like a more funny moment.
Yes.
So the Cheerios, it's just Quinn and Santana are in Sue's office talking about what happened. And basically Sue is saying what I said at the beginning of our episode, is that everything so much happens, but everything kind of goes back to where they started. Right. And like all of the work that the Cheerios did to like dismantle the Glee Club have pretty much done nothing. Yeah. So Sue tells them to smell their armpits. So the girls smell their armpits, and she says that is the smell of failure. Of a failure. And then she revokes their tanning privileges, and Santana runs out of the room crying, which I would just like to say, I feel like out of the two of them, from what I know about tanning culture, it's predominantly for white people. So why is Santana so pressed about getting tan?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe she it's meant to like represent that she might be just paler, or she might have lighter skin than she is shown to have had. So like maybe we're supposed to assume that she has been tanning, and that this will like destroy a part of her character that she identifies so strongly with. But I agree, like it would seem that Quinn would be more upset, but also Quinn has never like been a particularly like tan character.
Yes, that's true. And then Quinn has this like moment of saying something to Sue, which I don't remember exactly, so I don't know if you remember exactly what she says.
She just is like, I don't have to bring people down to feel good about myself. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, something like that.
And I just wrote, Quinn's glow up begins here. It's a big, big glow up.
Emotional glow up time for Quinn.
One of many.
Yes. She's got a lot of phases.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it for that scene. Not Jane. Sue is upset.
I think that's pretty much it for the episode, too. Is there anything else that
happens?
There's
one last little scene where they are doing choreography in the choir room, and they stop doing it, and Rachel's like, Mr. Shu, that was really good. And so it's a nice, like, they bring it right back to the beginning. Yeah. Basically.
It's very sweet.
This episode didn't really go anywhere.
Yes. Not a lot happened. I mean, a lot happened, but not a lot happened. Like, Kurt came out to one person.
Huge, which is huge. And it starts the trend of him coming out gradually.
Yes.
To pretty much everyone in the show. And
Puck is starting to sing. So Puck's character is kind of getting more screen time. Mercedes gets a solo.
Her first of many. And
the Cheerios are kind of like an accepted part of Glee Club.
Yes. They've become, instead of just antagonists, they've become like actually ingrained into the Glee group. They're committed now. They've committed because they've already wronged your teacher. I
cannot get comfortable.
Your coach. I feel you. I'm sitting on a tiny little stool right now, and like my butt doesn't even fit on it. So
I'm sitting on my bed because there's no good lighting and my laptop was dying. And so I've just been like sitting on one side the entire time. So my leg is like asleep. But I think that's everything for the episode. Was there anything else?
We should do best song, worst song. I'm curious to see what you said.
I think Mercy is the best performance.
Really?
But I think Mercedes' voice is the best.
I was going to say, I didn't really like
That's
Mercy
the one
that much.
You didn't like Mercy?
No, it was just like, it fell flat vocally for me. Like, the dancing was good, I guess. But, I mean, the dancing was good because that was the whole point of why they were going there.
Yeah. But Mercedes is your favorite?
Yeah, 100%. Her vocals were incredible. Brittany dancing, incredible.
Yes. I'm going to go with that one then as my favorite as well. Because I was kind of close between the two. I don't know, like, watching the Mercy one, I felt more, like, excited about the performance. Like, I was...
Right. It was a full show choir performance.
Yes. You know? But Mercedes was, like, I don't know. Hers was incredible. And for worst song, I don't know. Pretty much, like, anything that the Acafellas did was just not for me.
Yeah. I Want to Sex You Up, just because I thought it was incredibly inappropriate.
That's probably mine, too. That one was just not great.
Okay. It was funny, but it wasn't good. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And last time we did our little pyramid, our Dance Moms pyramid, but we're not going to do it every episode just because not a lot of people performed. There wasn't like a lot to work off of in terms of people's performance. So we're going to hold off on that today.
Yeah.
But I think that's everything.
That's episode 3.
That's episode 3.
Acafellas.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Should we like say it and that's what you missed on Glee at the same time? And then like edit out the part where we are saying right now that we're going to try to say it at the same time.
No, I feel like if we leave it in, it'll just be funny. But yes.
Okay, we'll just leave it in. We'll leave it in. Okay. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get better at this.
Yeah, from 3?
From 3, 2, 1?
3, 2, 1, yeah.
Okay.
All right. 3,
2.
And that's what you said. You froze. You froze.
You froze right as we were about to do it. Okay, let's try again.
Okay.
It's like of course it freezes right at that time. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
And
that's what you missed on Glee.
I mean, that wasn't terrible.
No, that wasn't bad.
Yay.